Well, Donald Trump, who meddles in every aspect of the federal government that he can, including now the firing of the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics for telling the truth about job statistics, claims that he, Donald Trump, has no idea why his personal criminal defense lawyer went to a Florida federal prison to talk to an old friend of Donald Trump's, convicted sex trafficker and rapist, abuser of children, Ghislaine Maxwell. We've all seen the photographs of Donald Trump hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein during the Epstein and Maxwell reign of terror against more than 1,000 children. Donald Trump just now has no idea why his former criminal defense lawyer, who he installed as the number 2 at the Justice Department, became the very first deputy attorney general in history to go to a prison to interview a convicted sex trafficker who the President of the United States personally wishes well. Donald Trump has said repeatedly, "I wish her well," when his old friend, the convicted sex trafficker, Ghislaine Maxwell, has been brought up to him in interviews. Donald Trump is, of course, in a position to make his own wish come true. Donald Trump could, for example, pardon Ghislaine Maxwell, just completely erase her conviction and release her from prison, or he could just commute her sentence and release her from prison. But that might be something that has to wait until Donald Trump's last day in office, because it could really hurt Republicans running for re-election next year who have devoted their political lives to the support of Donald Trump, and it could certainly hurt badly in the next presidential campaign. But if Donald Trump lets Ghislaine Maxwell out of prison on his last day in office in exchange for her publicly insisting that she and Jeffrey Epstein were never really friends with Donald Trump and that Donald Trump knew nothing about anything illegal that they ever did, well, the last day of the presidency would be the time for him to do that. And then Donald Trump's wishing her well will really and fully come true. But because Donald Trump's wish is even more urgent than that, a week after Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyer met with Ghislaine Maxwell, she was transferred to the easiest federal facility that exists for serving time, a facility that, according to the sentencing rules, does not allow sex offenders to serve time there. So someone had to wish really hard for a convicted sex trafficker to be transferred to that much more pleasant federal facility in Texas, where paparazzi photographers have now been able to photograph some of the people living there while they were working out. That's how low security a facility Ghislaine Maxwell is now enjoying, thanks to Donald Trump and his Justice Department, which has said nothing about why Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyer was sent to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell before she was then sprung from the federal prison, where she did not want to be serving time, into the most comfortable possible place to serve federal time. Todd Blanche, the former Trump criminal defense lawyer, said the Department of Justice will share additional information about what we learned at the appropriate time. This would be a good time. This is an appropriate time. Last week was an appropriate time. It would have been an even better time. The one thing you can be guaranteed is that Todd Blanche will never share what he discussed with Ghislaine Maxwell. He will never share all of it. They were predators together. They molested kids together. Did Todd Blanche ask her about exactly what she did when she was molesting kids? They were predators together. They molested kids together. Those are the words of the federal prosecutor who spoke at Ghislaine Maxwell's sentencing hearing. Let me repeat them. She said, prosecutor said, they were predators together. They molested kids together. That prosecutor also said the defendant has shown absolutely no remorse for her crimes. She has not owned up to the truth. She has lied repeatedly. The judge in the case agreed with that statement. At the sentencing hearing, the prosecutor said, we asked the court to send a message that nobody is above the law and nobody is too rich or powerful to be held accountable. And Donald Trump sent his criminal defense lawyer to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell and send exactly the opposite message. To send the message that friends of Donald Trump are above the law. And friends of Donald Trump are too rich and too powerful to be held accountable. That is the message that moving Ghislaine Maxwell to the easiest federal facility sends to her victims. The judge who sentenced Ghislaine Maxwell to 20 years in prison said this about the perjury charges against Ghislaine Maxwell. Quote, the defendant testified under oath in 2016 that she was not aware of Epstein's scheme to recruit underage girls for sexual massages, and other than Virginia, was unaware if she had interacted with anyone under the age of 18 at Epstein's properties. She never gave Annie Farmer a massage. She was unaware whether Epstein possessed sex toys. She was unaware that he was engaging in sexual activity with anyone other than her in the 1990s and 2000s. She never gave Epstein a massage. The credible testimony and evidence admitted at trial disproves these assertions, which were made under oath. Now, which of those lies did she tell Todd Blanche? All of them? The jury in Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, where she chose not to testify, believed the victims who testified against Maxwell. The judge believed those victims too. The judge said the evidence at trial established that Ms. Maxwell directly and repeatedly and over the course of many years participated in a horrific scheme to entice, transport, and traffic underage girls, some as young as 14, for sexual abuse by and with Jeffrey Epstein. I will pause on those words for a moment, by and with Epstein. It is important at the outset to emphasize that although Epstein was, of course, central to this criminal scheme, Ms. Maxwell is not being punished in place of Epstein or as a proxy for Epstein. Like every other participant in a multi-defendant case, Ms. Maxwell is being punished for the role that she played in the criminal conduct. As to that role, the trial evidence established that Ms. Maxwell was instrumental in the abuse of several underage girls and that she herself participated in some of the abuse. Ghislaine Maxwell herself personally molested children. And Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyer goes and has a conversation with her, and she's moved to an easier facility to serve time right away. And Donald Trump's wishing her well came true. So she's now guaranteed a very easy time in federal custody for the remainder of the Trump presidency. And then on the last day of the Trump presidency, Ghislaine Maxwell could walk free in exchange for never saying anything negative about Donald Trump. Today, two victims of Ghislaine Maxwell filed statements in court about the possible release of grand jury testimony, including their testimony. One of the statements to the judge said, I beg the court to make sure it is the utmost priority that in any sort of release, all and every detail that could possibly reveal our identities be redacted. Why not be completely transparent? Show us all the files with only the necessary redactions. Be done with it and allow us to heal. The other statement by a victim asked the judge, quote, to consider having an approved third party review these documents to ensure that no victims' names or likenesses are revealed through this release. That victim statement also said, I feel like the DOJ's and FBI's priority is protecting the third party, the wealthy men, by focusing on scrubbing their names off the files of which the victims know who they are. To learn that our own president has utilized thousands of agents to protect his identity and these high-profile individuals is monumentally mind-blowing. Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyer had access to the Epstein files all year. He was part of the team studying the Epstein files to try to find every mention of Donald Trump. He was part of the team that went to the Oval Office to brief Donald Trump on how many times his name appears in the Epstein files. And with all of his access to the Epstein files, it never crossed Todd Blanche's mind that he might want to speak to Virginia Giuffre or any of the victims. The only woman who Donald Trump's criminal defense lawyer wanted to talk to was the one who Donald Trump could help if she helped Donald Trump. Ghislaine Maxwell is the only person in this story about whom Donald Trump has ever said, "I wish her well." He never said that about Virginia Giuffre. Donald Trump has never said, "I wish her well," about a single victim of the woman who Donald Trump still wishes well. The first and only president in history to send well wishes through the news media publicly to an accused and convicted child rapist serving federal time. At the Maxwell sentencing hearing, the prosecutor said this: "What kind of person gets a 16-year-old girl all alone at a ranch in the middle of nowhere and tells her to take off her clothes and get on a massage table so she can grope that girl's chest? What kind of person teaches a 14-year-old girl how a middle-aged man likes his penis to be touched? What kind of person sees a 17-year-old girl on the street and pulls over so that she can persuade that girl to come to a house of horrors where that young girl will be trafficked for sex? What kind of person flies around on a plane with underage girls so that when her boyfriend travels, he always has a young girl to touch? What kind of person would use their privilege, their power in this world to intentionally prey on the vulnerable? Young girls from struggling families, girls without fathers, girls who need help. These are the actions of a person who was indifferent to the suffering of other human beings. Donald Trump, always and permanently indifferent to the suffering of other human beings, still wishes her well.